Corey. Obviously, Bryce Fitzgerald, saves the game there at the end with that pick. How have you seen him come along? The fact that he was able to come in the summer after everyone else, learn the playbook, learn everything, and make such a big impact this year. Just how was he able to do that?
Yeah, I think obviously loves football, committed, works hard. He's in the building all the time, constantly, competing in practice. And, I think I've made comment earlier in the year, in practice, the ball always finds him. And it does the same thing in games. In fall camp, preseason, I thought he created a lot of takeaways in those situations, and then, got an opportunity to play on the field, and it's happened over and over again. I think the first one might have been South Florida or Bethune, and, but he just continues to have a way of finding the football. And, I think the way that he competes and the way that he goes about practice and studying film and constantly improving is why you see him every single week continue to take the next step and get better as he develops.
Corey, just that last drive in general, Texas A&M starts driving down, they get to the goal line, just your team's resolve, your team's ability to close it out once they got down to the 5, just what does it say about the team, the group, and just how you guys were able to handle it with your back against the wall in those final moments?
Yeah, I think that was, the plan for the entire game was at some point they're going to make a play. At some point their wide receivers are going to make us miss a tackle, or the quarterback's going to extend something with his feet, or, they're going to hit a run, and it was always just respond. It was, at one play at a time, whatever happens, no matter where the ball is, we just knew we had to respond in different situations. And in the game, it happened to be in the last drive of the game, T4 situation, and, wanted to try to get them. They did a really good job early. We were trying to force the checkdowns, tackle them in bounds, and they got out of bounds on the first one. I think he hurdled us on the tackle. Then the second one, they get the ball out of bounds, and we get the penalty. And now they're at midfield and really didn't take a lot of time off the clock. And I thought when he scrambled, it made a good play to get down there. But our guys responded. They didn't get nervous about the situation. They played within the moment, played within the situation there. And, I thought they stayed together through everything. I thought the D-line did a good job of collapsing the pocket. I thought guys did a good job understanding where they were in the defense and communicating to certain calls, especially with different looks and pre-snap pitchers. And, everyone just did their job, and it worked out where we made the big play to win the game, really on second and third down. I thought a couple guys stepped up to make plays.
Looking at Ohio State, obviously Jeremiah Smith, considered him maybe the best overall player in the country. Just how is he so difficult to defend? What makes him so difficult to defend?
Yeah, I think, they have elite players on the perimeter. He's a big wide receiver. He's got really good size. He's got really good speed. He can make a big play at any point in the game, and they do a lot of things to get the football to him. Quarterback's a good player. I think they're good up front. They protect them well. So, overall, they have a lot of different ways that they can attack you on the offensive side of the ball, and I think, he's one of the better players in the country, and there's a reason why he is. He does good things when he gets the ball.
Does it help when, there's probably at least 5-6 guys on the defense who've played against him or played with him in high school? Have they told you anything like, hey, this worked one time in a Class 3A playoff game or something? Does anything like that pop up?
No, today was really more, clean up the game from this past weekend, make sure we fix, different things, clean up different items, and make sure we all start the same way, and now we're moving on to Ohio State.
The completion percentage for Julian Sayin is off the charts, right? I'm curious, does that accuracy show up when you watch the tape as well, with the ball placement?
Yeah, I think they do a really good job. I think they, it looks like they're going a little bit slower on TV and on the coach's copy there, and it looks like they manage their drives very well. They're staying ahead of the sticks. They're not getting off track. When they take shots, they do a really good job with it, and they have really good, skilled wide receivers and tight ends to get the ball to down the field, and then when it's not there, he hits the check downs, and they do a really good job of moving the sticks.
Keontae Scott comes back after missing basically a month and doesn't look like he missed a beat. Just thoughts on his performance on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought, his mentality and the way he attacked it to get back on the field, amazing job by him and our training staff and everyone involved. But, you could tell, the way he prepares for the game, how fast he plays, and, right when he jumped back into it, you're always, how is he feeling? And right away from day one in practice, he was full speed and doing everything that he shows on the field on a Saturday, he was doing on Tuesday's practice or Wednesday's practice. And, you could tell he was full go right from that spot. And, he was ready to get back out there. And the hardest thing is just do your job. When you get out there, just do your job, stay within the defense. And he did exactly that. And, early he set the edge, and I think he triggered and had a TFL on a screen, and he did a really good job setting the edge, taking on the block. Later he triggered, got a TFL, and as the game went on, he had that sack strip. He just continued to be in the right spot and make the plays and make the available play. And, I think he's done that all year, and, that's one thing that's, so special about him, how he can make those plays in those situations.
When you got here in January, one of the things you said in your intro press conference was at each of your stops, you made sure you were learning something new, learning different ways to improve. Now that you've been here for about 11 months out, basically a full season, what have you learned about yourself, or how do you feel like you have evolved as a coordinator since you got here?
Yeah, I think just learning from, the style of play that our players have down here, and then our staff, stealing different things that, we've done on the D-line here in the past, or that, D-Lou or JT have done in the past, or different things, a coverage or a different way of teaching a concept from Zach or Will, or, someone else on the staff may have had a different idea, or seeing how, Coach Dawson attacks us in practice, and then, all right, now we got to figure out another answer for how to stop that. In every different area of the program, how you go about installing it or practicing it during the week. We've done it a little bit differently here than I've done it everywhere else, as far as like where we install and do certain things on certain days. And, it's worked out really well, and I think our guys are playing fast with the way we're doing it right now. And, it's a little different right now. You turn on the Big Ten film again, and there's a lot of common opponents or similar teams defensively that we always used to cross over and watch. And, we've evolved, and we're a little bit different than we were when we were back in the Big Ten. And, you can see that on our film when you go from the A&M game right into a crossover film from Ohio State. You can see those differences right away jump out to us.
The way Motori laid his body on the line to dislodge what would have been a touchdown, you've been around him a long time. Did it surprise you that he was willing to make that type of play, put his body on the line like that?
No, I think that's exactly who he is. He's going to give everything on every rep to go make the play for the team. And it's whether it's going in and setting the edge, or taking on a block, climbing to the second level to get it to someone else to make the play, or it's him making the play. That's exactly who he's always been. And I think, seeing them throw that and knowing that he was going to be there, like on the sideline, you knew that our guys were going to step up and make that play.
And just wanted to say about him that, he comes out of the game, it was a scary looking injury, and he comes out and he's 2 seconds later, cheering on Bryce and trying to get into the celebration while the trainers are pulling it back. Like, what does that say about him and how much he cares about his team and everything?
Yeah, he loves football. He loves his teammates. That's always who he's been. And he didn't want to come out of the game. Obviously he's got to go see the trainers, come off the sideline, but he wants to play every single play. And that's what a lot of the guys in the defense and on the team here, that's who they are. They love the game of football. They love competing. And I think that's why, the defense plays the way it does. And I think that's what shows up as a result from the team. That's what it is. And, every guy wants to get more reps and continue to battle and continue to play in different areas. But, it showed in the game with him doing that in that situation.
And then with OJ coming back for the first time since, I think, the Stanford game, how do you think he did in his first game back? And do you think he did maybe shake off any rust or anything?
Yeah, I think, I thought he played well. I thought all those guys, the way they communicated, I think A&M had one explosive play against us. And, that was the thing that was our number one concern, was making sure we kept the ball in front of us, tackled well on the perimeter, set edges, challenged the receivers. And, I thought those guys in the back end did a really good job all game long. We had one miscommunication, really good throw and catch by them. I thought that was an excellent play by ZP and even E on the backside, running that thing down in case that was a fumble, going to scoop that football up. But, outside of that, I thought those guys communicated well. I thought they played really fast, and I thought they played physical on the edges.
And then on those, what have you seen from Ohio State, particularly in their pass blocking?
Yeah, I think they're a very talented football team. I think they run the ball really well. I think they have good backs up front. They're physical at the point of attack. I think they have some really talented tight ends, and they play a lot of guys at that spot. And then, the wide receivers speak for themselves. They're as talented as anyone in the country on the perimeter. And at any play, it could be an explosive. So we got to do a really good job of, playing one play at a time. Our guys got to be physical at the point of attack. We got to be really disciplined with our eyes.
You haven't coordinated against them, but you've been on staffs you've been part of staffs that have played against them. Yep. Does that familiarity help at all, or every game's different?
Just trying to get a feel. It looks like it's a little bit different than the way they called it. Looks like it's a little bit more heavier personnel than what it was in 2022 and 23. But, I think it'll be similar. Still trying to get a feel for exactly how they're calling it in different situations and how they're using their personnel. I think it'll help a little bit, but it's a different year, it's different personnel, and I think everyone always changes.
Awesome. We'll switch things over to Scotty from the Cotton Bowl. Scotty?
Yes, sir. Coach, your first question is going to come from Patrick Murphy. Patrick, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. You were talking earlier about the red zone stop you guys got. Ohio State's last game, the Big Ten Championship, they had some issues in the red zone. But overall, what have you seen from their offense when they get into that red area?
And that's one area still, kind of gone through game by game, still earlier on in the game planning right now. That's an area we got to still continue to look at as we keep going here.
Two more from Zoom. First from Christian Procia. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how's it going? With Coach Hartline taking the job at USF, obviously Ryan Day's taking the play calling duties going forward for Ohio State. How does that really change how you're going to call the game with things like adjustments and changing tempos throughout the day?
Yeah, that's something, we got to get a feel early in the game. How different is it from the Indiana game or from what they've done this year collectively in the 2025 season? And, we're going to have to get a feel. Is it the same way they're using their personnel? Are they using it different? Are they using the same tempo or style of play? Are they changing it up? And that's where, early on trying to go through and watch similar games, common opponents, similar defensive structures and styles, how they've tried to attack people, and, trying to go all the way back to the games from a couple of years ago against them, trying to see what changes there are and what similarities there are. I think that's something, just the first couple drives, after that first 10, we're going to have to get a good feel for exactly how they're calling it and what tempo they're doing and, how they're trying to use their guys and deploy them in those areas.
Follow from Zoom from Dan Toro.
Coach, Ruben Bane Jr. coming off this last game, 3 sacks, a blocked field goal, not just in the game against Texas A&M, but overall, just how you've seen him evolve and the type of leadership that he brings to your team and how he can change a game.
Yeah, he's a guy that, he's always going to be in the right spot. He's always going to play as physical and as hard and as fast as he possibly can. And, I've mentioned it in the past, that's what happens in Tuesday practice. That's what happened in spring football. And that's just the way he always is. And that's where you're going to get everything out of him. And, in some games, like this past weekend, he was the guy that made the available play. In other games, he's the guy occupying a combo or a double or getting chipped. And, one of the other guys are stepping up and making that play. But, I thought it was awesome. He had some available plays this weekend. He played very, very well. He was great at the point of attack. He used his hands very well. I thought he did an outstanding job in the run game, knocking the line of scrimmage back. They ran like a stretch puller early at him, and I thought, T sets the edge, and he knocks the guy back and tears off and makes a play at the point of attack for a 1-yard loss with Poyser. And, I thought that kind of set the tempo for the line of scrimmage for the day. And, that allowed us to get ahead of the sticks and do some different things on second down. And, his ability to win some of those one-on-ones in different situations, I think, just changes the game. And he's been doing it all year. It's just sometimes it's a double team, sometimes it's slide to him or different things. And this weekend, obviously, he was rewarded with the stats a little bit more, but I thought his style of play has been the same way week in, week out.